good afternoon and even good evening, in fact. I'm delighted to participate this year again to the EBN Congress and to give you a short keynote on the theme of the next era of innovation incubation. In the context of growing geopolitical competition and the pandemic we are still facing, the concept of technological sovereignty or strategic autonomy emerged, in fact, in 2020 to become one of the political themes of the moment. Therefore, all powers are struggling to remain in the race, while innovation is rising more than ever as a top issue for world leaders. Yet, Europe has plentiful talent, ideas, and startups, but as you know, it lacks scale-ups, with the US having 4 times as many per inhabitant. EU investments in venture capital are 4 to 5 times lower than in the US, and Europe underperforms in terms of new unicorn companies worth over 1 billion euro. Under the leadership of our commissioner, Maria Gabriel, our objective is clearly to deliver the innovation needed for a sustainable and resilient recovery from the pandemic, for accelerating the green and digital transitions, and for securing the technological sovereignty, the technological autonomy of the Union. Through the renewed innovation policy, we want to boost Europe's innovation performance and address persistence problems hindering innovation, such as insufficient transfer of new technologies from research to market, lack of risk finance for companies to scale up fast, fragmentation of the internal market and regulatory burden, and a business environment and culture that is more risk adverse and less conducive to innovation. The European society adheres to strong values and principles and related societal expectations that define a European innovation approach that is human-centered and just, equitable, sustainable, and ethical by design, and that provide innovators with orientations that secure competitive advantages. Unexploited innovation potential also stems from insufficient gender, cultural and social diversity in technology and innovation, meaning that important perspectives are missing and valuable resources go untapped. A particular challenge for Europe is the need to tackle also the innovation divides that remain, that persevere between member states, notably due to uneven diffusion of knowledge and innovation policies that are not sufficiently place sensitive and adapted to the specific characteristic of different countries and regions. To tackle these challenges that you all know, we already launched a number of key initiatives I would like to recall in the beginning of my keynote. First, the European Innovation Ecosystem, the EIE program, implemented under the new Horizon Europe third pillar, Innovative Europe, is acting in complement and synergy with the European Innovation Council, the EIC, and the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, as well as innovative activities across Horizon Europe and other EU funding programs in order to improve the overall ecosystem for innovation in Europe. Consequently, over time, it should become the coordinating tool of a broader European innovation area. Even if it has been primarily designed to support our most promising innovators, the European Innovation Council should also become the cornerstone of such a European innovation area, or whatever the name we will give to this key political ambition, which would complement the already existing European research area. The EIC Forum, to be launched at the end of November 2021 in the context of the EIC Summit that will take place between the 24th and the 25th of November, could become in this context the General Assembly of all European relevant stakeholders from the innovation field, while the EIC Board, to be set up in the coming weeks, could pass the way for high-level decision makers. And finally, the EIC president, due to be appointed in the coming months, could also become the champion, the visage, the figure of innovation in Europe. To crowd in private investors in innovation activities, in particular the financing of startups, the EIC fund that was incorporated in June 2020 is playing a critical catalytic role across Europe. Its intervention is indeed reducing the level of risk perceived by venture capitalists and other potential investors, and thus boosting the risk capital market geared towards technological innovation. At the same time, it is through the EIC fund and that the EU becomes a shareholder in particularly promising innovative companies. And among the 159 European startups and SMEs selected for blended finance under the EIC pilot phase in 2020, notably, the EIC fund has already assessed 149 and approved equity investment worth close to 600 million euro. This puts the EIC fund in a strong position to become a beacon for European technology investments and the financial arm of the European innovation area. I'm not forgetting also the EIT and its KICs, which are now fully operational for the new programming period, and with whom the EIC has signed a memorandum of understanding as well as concrete common pilots with 3 and soon 4 KICs. But of course, new actions are needed because innovation is in permanent evolution and requires these new actions. Before proposing further actions, however, it is absolutely essential to revisit lessons learned from the effectiveness of past innovation strategies, instruments and actions, analysis of current innovation-related strategies and actions, and assessments of persistent problems and new opportunities, not least in the context of what is emerging from the ongoing crisis and recovery. To this end, we have launched a large consultation, as you know. We have already received thought-provoking reports from a number of actors, and notably from 3 advisory groups that brought together European unicorns, European innovation ecosystem leaders, and women in venture capitals. I would like to mention already a number of ideas that are emerging from this report, keeping in mind that additional input is coming up. All 3 reports point to persistent problems hindering innovation in Europe that I already mentioned in my introduction. The insufficient transfer of new technologies, the lack of risk finance, the fragmentation of internal markets, and the risk averseness, just to quote a number of them. The report, nevertheless, proposes a number of actions to strengthen Europe's strategic autonomy and leadership and successfully pull off the green transition to foster talent and entrepreneurship and better connect innovation ecosystem at all levels. One theme that emerged as a clear priority from the Unicorn report, for example, is the importance of technological sovereignty or autonomy and the need for Europe to become a digital leader and not a follower. This is a rightful concern. The EU risks a gradual loss of global competitiveness with insufficient scale-up companies in new technologies and slow adoption of digital technologies, standing in contrast to rapid technological change worldwide and the emergence of new global players. The supply of higher skills in this frame is also key for guaranteeing the adoption of new technologies, and this remains a main bottleneck to digital adoption and for innovation. Just to recall you that to help respond to this particular challenge of higher skills, the supply of higher skills in the digital area, we have set out a series of actions to boost the basic and advanced digital skills development of citizens in the recent Digital Education Action Plan 2021-2027. Action in this regard, as you know, focus on the need to develop digital competence and skills from an early age and constantly maintain and advance them in a lifelong learning perspective. Another important theme is the lack of women representation at all levels when it comes to innovation aspects, at the level of investors, venture capital funds and companies, just to quote a number of them. Women representation at the level of investors and venture capital funds result in a more diverse portfolio of investments, as studies mention it. According to the Women VC report, only 1.7% of all capital went to female founders in Europe from 2016 to 2020. Only 5 billion is the total estimate assets under management by women-led VC firms. Compared that with the 51 billion from the entire European VC firms from 2016 to 2020, and this needs to change if we want to have more women-led VCs in Europe. When it comes to support startup and scale-up, the European Innovation Council is, of course, our main instrument and the starting point for a broader reform of the European innovation policies that aims to benefit a new generation of innovators. But the EIC is more than the addition of the accelerators, the transition activities, and the Pathfinder, which are its main schemes of support. It also provides the EIC community and business acceleration services that include, for instance, dedicated and impact-focused matchmaking events, such as corporate days to bring together large corporate and startup, or procure days to see how to link to private and public procurement of innovation. The EIC is a one-stop shop for European innovators, and with its 10 billion euro budget, it will aim at supporting breakthrough innovation. It will not finance projects per se, but companies that have projects from the early advanced research to the commercialization and scale-up phase. However, one key challenge that is emerging is our capacity to follow on investment and to provide bigger size tickets in order notably to maintain promising EU scale-ups in the EU. This particular theme is also a matter of concern that we have to tackle. The European leadership in transformative technology will not only depend on guidance and funding, nevertheless, but also on the ability of its innovation ecosystem to cooperate, create and reinforce links, and just like the roots of a tree, find fertile grounds to thrive. In this context, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology and its knowledge and innovation communities, KICs, are a perfect example of a set of innovation ecosystem and environment that stimulate entrepreneurship, creative and innovative thoughts that contribute to increased competitiveness and sustainable economic growth of Europe and its region. As you know, after over 10 years of operation, the EIT has managed to establish a trusted network of over 2,000 partners across Europe in various fields, making it one of the largest networked innovation communities in the world. Its uniqueness indeed builds on its local and thematic networks addressing innovation at systemic level along the entire value chain from education to the market, and consequently, it perfectly complements what is proposed under the European Innovation Council. However, more could be done in the complementarities between EIC and EIT in order to provide notably an easier access, a more impactful support for our EU innovators. A last issue that emerged from the report that I would like to highlight is talent. Talented individuals are indeed key for an innovation ecosystem. Here, higher education institutions are key in educating our future generation and nurturing the talents that we need to allow startups to start their businesses and grow, as talent is as important as capital for growth. In this frame, as you know, we are currently co-creating a European strategy for universities, and part of it will need to look into how to strengthen their capacity to support entrepreneurship and innovation. Already today, we are supporting this with our Higher Education Innovate initiative that supports higher education institutions in their ambition to become more entrepreneurial. The startup scene would benefit enormously from an increased support to university students to start a business. Creative spaces, maker spaces, and fab labs should also receive greater support, especially those hosting young or socially disadvantaged entrepreneurs who want to start a business. With all this in mind, there is clearly a strong need for policy initiatives that aim to ensure a well-connected and inclusive European innovation ecosystem that can be the foundation of groundbreaking innovation made in Europe that reflect our values and ambition. That is why we are all putting our efforts in turning Europe into an innovation powerhouse. We need to accelerate the transfer of ideas, technologies and talent from the research institution into startups and industry, and to increase the collaboration between all types of innovators, regardless of whether they come from national, regional, private or public sectors, regardless of whether they are universities, research and technology organizations or startups. The complex nature of European research and innovation ecosystem and the broad diversity of their activities at European, national, or regional levels calls for efficient ways to better connect their talents, spread best practices, increase their interoperability, and encourage a higher degree of coordination. This can be done only by joining our forces and ensure that all actors are on board, as innovation does not happen in isolation. It is a result of the interaction between the key actors and on national, regional, and local levels that will make a difference. Strategic partnership at all levels, EU, regional, local, with the participation also of citizens and interconnection of ecosystems are therefore essential. The value and power of regional communities and the role of public sector via new initiatives and public procurement schemes is unquestionable toward driving change and will be reflected in a number of activities under Horizon Europe, starting in particular by the European Innovation Council. Through a diverse portfolio of action, we have the intention to support their flourishment by promoting friendly innovation regulatory framework, including the dissemination of the use of innovation procurement, also in close cooperation with the EIC Forum, ensuring access to resources, capital and talent, to facilitate startup sustainability and access to national, European and global markets, stimulating genuine multi-stakeholder involvement and foster public-private, private-private collaboration, and supporting knowledge exchange and enhancing soft skills and education. You know, an interconnected and resourceful innovation ecosystem will act, I'm sure, as a catalyst to fulfill the potential of European startups in delivering market-ready applications and technology solutions. Moreover, connecting local digital and deep tech startup ecosystem and supporting cross-border acceleration activities for startup will enable the development of more scale-ups that will become global champions. But to achieve these goals, we need your support and active involvement in order to strengthen the European innovation ecosystem. This is why I take this opportunity to invite you all to contribute to the ongoing consultations that we launch, to invite, of course, your startup communities to consult the soon-to-be launched calls designed for startup ecosystem players under the scale-up destination of the European Innovation Ecosystem Work Programme, as well as through the Startup Europe initiative. We have in Europe a number of key strengths, and we have all the capacity to emerge as a leader in the ongoing digital and green transformation. But it's up to us. It's up to all of us to make it a reality for the benefit of our citizens. And I'm sure that EBN actors will play a key role and are fully committed to participate to this to the delivery of this challenge. I thank you all in advance. I'm sure that we will have other opportunities to have a more physical discussion in the future. And I use this opportunity also to wish you all a very fruitful event. Thank you.